Therefore, I've asked Congress for a one-year increase of more than $48 billion for national defense, the largest increase in a generation.
In a lot of ways, U.S. power in the world is collapsing. What these neoconservatives are trying to do is to compensate with military might and muscle and force what they're losing in terms of economic control.
Perpetual war, the loss of civil liberties, the lack of trust in government because they don't tell the truth. These are outrageous and unpleasant political developments, but they don't necessarily spell the end of the United States. Financial bankruptcy does.
To maintain the Bush administration's war doctrine, massive increases in military spending have been required. The United States now spends more than $400 billion annually on the military, 7 times as much as the next biggest spender, and nearly equal to what the rest of the world spends combined. Such vast expenditures on military machinery and war, together with the largest tax cuts in history, have driven the Bush administration's record budget deficits. They have also been responsible for deepening the national debt, which by the end of 2004 figures to stand at over $7 trillion, more than 5 times the size of the debt of the entire Third World. Foreign countries hold the notes on about 1/3 of this unprecedented U.S. debt.
That money must be paid back. And that means somewhere down the road, Americans will pay taxes and get nothing.
Debt is reaching forward to future generations, taking their wealth, bringing it onto current account and spending it. It's like if I mortgaged my home and used the money for crack or something, just some expenditure. Eventually, you're going to lose your home.
The image and the rhetoric is tough America going it alone. The reality is in hoc, in-debt America begging others for money. The cowboy stopping occasionally with the horse, getting off the saddle, going to the Western Union, and wiring money to the rest of the world is not in a lot of Western films because it doesn't seem super cool, but that would be our cowboy. Our cowboy is going to have to hop off that horse periodically, by the way, the horse that he won't own, and make payments to whoever does own the horse and the saddle and the gun and the boots and the hat.
And the basis of U.S. economic strength today is the fact that the dollar is the reserve currency all over the world. And that's a political phenomenon. Now, if tomorrow, and I think it will occur tomorrow or the next day, these countries decide that that makes no economic sense for them. It never made political sense, but it makes no economic sense for them. Then the U.S. goes down the drain.
Things that can't go on forever don't. What we're talking about right now is the rigged American economy can't go on forever, and it's not rocket science to say so.
The military budget is one thing. That's the Pentagon. We have to pay extra to pay for a war.
The administration's request for $87 billion is the clearest sign yet the U.S. war in Iraq is far from over. The proposal includes $51 billion for U.S. military operations in Iraq, $21 billion for reconstruction of Iraq's infrastructure. The U.S. would also pay some expenses for coalition forces, $4 billion.
So, in fact, we've had 2 payments for this war so far that have added up to $141 billion, which is an incredible amount of money. Just to give you an example of what that money could buy, we could provide health insurance for each of the 12 million children that don't have health insurance for the next 7 years for that $141 billion. We could provide 1.4 million affordable housing units, which would really totally address our affordable housing crisis and provide 3 million jobs with that kind of money. We could rebuild every school in this country that needs to be rebuilt and provide jobs for 60,000 teachers for the next 4 years. There's one community that we've been working in, a very low-income community, child poverty rate of 41%. It's spending $15 million for this war, but if you added up the amount of money the city is also paying in taxes for the Pentagon budget, as well as the war, the amount comes to $60 million for this little city of about 35,000 people. If you took a look at the city's operating budget, you'd find that the city's operating budget is $110 million. So in fact, people are paying half of what they would to operate their whole city for Pentagon spending and this war effort. The citizens of New York are paying $4.4 billion just for the war effort. Cincinnati is paying $111 million just for the war effort. Dallas, Texas is paying $550 million just for the war effort.
If we continue down this road, we will be participating in this mass diversion of resources away from people, away from the population, away from the typical American family, and to the military.
We've got incredible economic needs, and they're just not being addressed by the federal government. This past year, 49 cents out of every tax dollar has either gone to the military or to interest on the debt. We spend 3 cents on education, federal education. We spend 2.5 cents on food and nutrition, 2 cents on housing, less than 0.5 cent on job training. So when you take a look at the needs, we ought to be spending a lot more money to address those needs. When you take a look at where your tax dollar goes, it's clearly going in the other direction.
At the same time that the American public is being asked to bear the costs of war, to bear the costs of empire, the Bush administration has gone forward with radical tax cuts that disproportionately benefit the wealthy.
A way to look at how radical this government is they've cut taxes twice, a la Reagan, and their response is to cut them again, having seen the same kind of results that made Reagan's people raise taxes, i.e. exploding government deficits, exploding inequality inside the United States, and the sort of social and political risks that come along with that. Their response has been, we made a mess, let's make the mess bigger so we can really change things.
This wasn't a program aimed at the average working person or the typical American family. These tax cuts were aimed at the wealthy, the people who fund President Bush.
We have a set of religious beliefs here that to the extent that we must support the wealthy, the rich, that the rich are in terrible trouble, that if we don't take care of the rich, everything terrible will happen. Well, my feeling is the rich can always take care of themselves. That's why they're rich. They have a wonderful skill for making money. They don't need government help. They need to be impeded by the government. It'll bring out the best in them. At the same time, it'll level the playing field a little bit.
Over the next few years, if the neocons get their way, we're going to see increased money for the Pentagon, increased tax breaks for very wealthy people, and fewer dollars that are going to go to education, housing, healthcare, and other basic needs.
They not only want to repeal, revoke virtually all of the progressive reforms of the New Deal and ever since, and really bring us back into essentially unregulated, non-unionized country that existed before the New Deal.
They are dedicated to dismantling the progressive achievements of the past century. I mean, through the past century, there has been large-scale popular struggle to try to protect people from the ravages of market forces and from growing corporate power, which has been very destructive.
It is not military spending that will be cut. It's domestic spending, spending that affects us at home.
Inside the United States right now, the money is lost in the school. A lot of service in the school is lost. The teachers lost the job. The transportation for the student is lost, is no more, because no have money. But have a lot of money for the war.
I think it's really important that we begin to redefine national security. If people don't have jobs, if people can't provide education for their children, if people are going hungry, if people don't have health insurance, they're insecure. We need to be able to address that level of insecurity in this country. And the federal government is not addressing those needs because we're pouring all this money into a unilateral war and providing tax breaks for very wealthy people.